Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Luehrsen, and I am the Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation. And I'm really delighted to participate in this conference and have this conversation with two important and remarkable people that are working in youth music in their regions. And we'll be talking about the realities of our current global health pandemic and how they are working so hard to support young people as they continue to make music in the virtual space and also building capacity going forward and what their programs and their outreach is going to look like in the future. So I welcome to our conversation Emmanuel Mujuru, who's all the way from Zimbabwe. Is that where you are today, Emmanuel?
Yes, thanks very much.
You're and Chris Thür, and you are dialing in. Where are you dialing in from, Chris?
Helsinki, Finland.
Helsinki, Finland. And I must tell you, I have been to Helsinki and I had a marvelous experience there. But I haven't been to Zimbabwe, but it is definitely on my bucket list to come to Africa. So let's hope, because of the in both of your countries, a profound dedication to music and a very, very rich musical culture. So let's hope that the future will bring these opportunities again. So I'm delighted to chat with you. First of all, I'd like just to each of you give us a short summary, précis of your organization, your service region, and really kind of a baseline of what you do. Chris, should we start with you in Finland?
Sure, happy to do so. I'm from Switzerland actually, but I moved to Finland about 12 years ago. And about 10 years ago, I met with my co-founder at the university, and both of us shared the same experience with music, which is we had a love for music and failed to learn to play when we were kids and teenagers. And as we were getting adults, or at least for me, it felt like something that was always missing for me. And instead of practicing an instrument, we played Guitar Hero. And so that was the moment where we felt, why isn't anyone making learning to play an instrument as much fun as Guitar Hero? Then we'd actually do something. And the two of us felt like, why don't we build something like this? So that was a bit the starting point from the company. We wanted to build something for people like us, self-learners who maybe lack the motivation to keep practicing. And so the idea was that we asked ourselves, if we combine the music education with computer game features, we can make people really excited and addicted to practice in those early weeks and months where, it's a lot of repetition and practicing and really getting the technique right. So that was 10 years ago. Fast forward to today, we are the world's leading digital music education company. We have about 20 million people every month playing with their instruments with us from across the world. We even have one person practicing in Antarctica, which is fantastic. So we really have people all across the globe. What Yousician is, it's a self-learning service that you can download on your device, smartphone or tablet or your computer. It uses the built-in microphone of your system, so it listens to you play, gives you instant feedback on accuracy, timing, and it is built like a game, so you can unlock the next levels by performing well, and you kind of move through the syllabus. It starts from complete beginner levels, so how to tune the guitar, how to play your first note, how to play chords, but then very soon you start actually playing your first songs, and then it goes all the way up 2,500 levels later, where it's so hard that the best guitarists in the world may not be able to achieve it. So that's what we do. We have 5 instruments, so guitar, piano, ukulele, bass, and Yousician for voice, so you can also learn to sing. And we are about 100 people, 90 of which are here in Helsinki and 10 are in New York. I think that's probably it in a nutshell. The app is free to download, free to try. So everyone who has an instrument at home, no matter your skill, complete beginner or advanced prodigy, by all means, go try it out. There's something for everyone.
So you really gamified self-learning of music in a way.
We recognized early on that the challenge with music education for most, so 95% of Americans would like to play a musical instrument. Unfortunately, only about 12% actually do. So there is a big discrepancy here, and the challenge usually is staying motivated to practice. And so really what we are addressing is, we, as good as we can, we keep people motivated to practice with whatever we can do. great songs, great educational content, a motivating thing, make it easy and light and approachable, making it affordable for those who can't afford lessons as well, from a price point. And then yes, the whole gamification layer comes on top of it. The good thing is, I think, well, we'll get to that, but a lot of teachers also use it to motivate their students between the lessons, because the teachers actually often have the same problem. That was my teacher when I was a kid, had that problem, which is I never practiced between the lessons. And so no wonder I didn't get any better. And I think many teachers out there, they have a similar experience with, you know, it's hard, man. You're competing against games and social media, everything. You're competing for the time that the learner has. And if you can make it more fun, more enjoyable, you log more hours. And we all know it takes practice to become good. There is no way around it. And that's also the wonderful part of it. What we are trying to do is to get people to spend more time.
Oh, that's just, I've got a million questions, and we'll come back to many of them, but how wonderful. Emmanuel, tell us about your organization and your service outreach and how you support young people with music.
Yes, my organization is the Music Crossroads Zimbabwe Trust. And I joined Music Crossroads in 2013 when we founded the academy. The organization itself, Music Crossroads, had been there since 1995, but they changed their focus and decided to open an academy. And I co-founded the academy with my colleagues in Zimbabwe. And our mandate is to provide cheap, affordable music education, but of high quality. So the first thing that was done was to carry out a research on the requirements in Southern Africa, musical requirements in music education. And after that research, then we were called in to open the academy. And I was the pedagogical coordinator, or they called me the head of pedagogy. Actually, it was my time to hear that title. So yes, we have been operating since 2013. Although right now I'm not in Zimbabwe, I'm in Norway. Actually, I'm pursuing another educational program, but I've got colleagues pushing on. There's a very strong team there. Yes, basically that's what you're doing. The difference with the conventional music courses that have been being offered in the countries, that ours is basically leaning on the African side mainly, trying to get a theory of African music using modal scales, as opposed to just the major and minor, because that's basically what we find in our music. And we also do a lot with rhythm, because African rhythms require their own kind of approach, especially when you begin talking about hemiola, 3 against 2, 2 against 3. And so we have devised a system of embodying those rhythms so that you can actually articulate them using your body, although they're actually crisscrossing each other. Yes.
Is that where the Crossroads come in? Is that part of your, is that you're actually, trying to create a legacy for the indigenous music or the pure music of your country? Is that part of it as well? The name music.
Yes, basically, yes, the name Music Crossroads, yes, comes in because we are dealing with different cultures which are kind of at a crossroads.
Right, right.
Yes.
How many students are you serving in your program in the school?
So far, we have been having every year, we would have about 60 students every year, but of course we have, dropouts in some cases. Yes, but last year we had, we actually had 25 graduating, completing the course. When we started initially, we just used to have 1 intake per year. Then we went on to double and would have 2 intakes, each one having about 60 students. But our plan was just to have 30 students per intake. Then there was a lot of pressure and people complained, and we had to find ways of expanding.
Well, yeah, I think that there's a theme here, right? Either it's online with technology or in the community. There's a real desire to learn music, right? There's a real desire to participate. I just want to, before we move on to some of all the other programmatic questions that I know will inspire a lot of people, I just want to learn a little bit more about who you are. Chris, I see a guitar peeking out behind you. Did that become your instrument then once you found your way? And after the online plastic guitar hero, did you then find your way to a quote unquote a real guitar and became a guitar hero yourself?
Not entirely. So I do play instrument, but my main instrument is the piano. I think with the instruments, I think for many people, it's kind of, you can't explain it why. It's like love. You just know this is mine. I always knew the piano was mine. So I have a piano on the other side. I also have a piano next to my desk. In fact, we have, at some point somebody counted, we have like 100 people at the office and we have like 300 instruments. So everyone has an instrument next to their desk. So people play quite a lot. I find the guitar more convenient when I actually have a conference call and I want to demo it, because people can actually see me play. With the keyboards is not, so that's why I have it behind me. I do play as well. I play all of the instruments we have a little bit, but it's not my main instrument.
So did you start taking piano study early as a child? Was this something that you did in the beginning of your life as you were developing?
I'll tell you exactly what happened if you want to, because it's a wonderful story. I went to a school in the monastery in St. Gallen, which is a UNESCO heritage building. It's incredibly beautiful. And downstairs we had this one room. It was like this beautiful old cellar, and it had a grand piano in it. And so our music teacher there, he had an amazing music taste, and we were singing Bohemian Rhapsody. And I remember, like, we were in that beautiful room, and, you know, it's like, is this the real life? And so we sing it all, and then he starts coming in with the pianos, that part, and that, I was just like, wow, this is what I want to do. I went home to my parents. They've always been supportive. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to learn to play the piano. Fortunately, my sister had learned to play the piano earlier. She failed, so we gave her piano to my cousin. She failed, so then that piano was free. They gave it to me, and within a year, I failed too. So I was blaming the piano, or that we are not a musical family. And then I have been honestly in this situation from when I was 14 until I was maybe 27, when we started this company, and I recognized it can be a lot of fun, actually, and you can play cool songs quite soon. Within a few weeks, I was playing a couple of songs, and I'm pretty sure for both of you, I mean, the moment it gets you, like you can't stop anymore. I think the moment when you first time really put out a piece, even if it's not good from a skill perspective, or, you know, it's not a hard piece, it's just the first time you make music that somehow comes from within, not like my fingers press the right buttons, but I'm making music. I mean, for me at least, that was it. And I love playing the piano. I'm not good at it. I'll never be a great pianist, but I think I have the heart of a musician nonetheless. Yeah,
that's just wonderful. You know, that story of you almost were sort of like neurologically overwhelmed by something, right? You're in this, you know, Quincy Jones, who you might, you know, the great producer, Michael Jackson, right, all that, tells a story too of breaking into an armory, and they were actually trying to go through the kitchens, and they wanted to eat some food, and they knew there were pies because there was a pie or whatever, and he went into a room and there was a piano, and he touched the piano, and he said this electricity went through his body. You know, I mean, this is, you know, the transforming power of it all. How about you, Emmanuel? What is your instrument, and what guided you into this work?
Well, when I started, I was a singer, like a choir boy at school. Then I went through my school, from primary school to high school. I took a lot of interest in singing in the school choir. And then when I went for teachers training, although the college where I trained in education wasn't really involved in special music education, it was just like a club, just singing in the choir club. So after completing my teacher education, I went to teach at a high school, in Harare, Chitungwiza area, where I built a school choir which became very, very popular. And we finally actually recorded an album which actually became very, very popular on national TV. And then my headmaster was quite interested in what I was doing, and he pushed me actually. He said, why don't you enroll for lessons? But as I was growing, I also had an interest in this instrument, the mbira, but my mother didn't want me to play it. So I would actually have to sneak out and learn with friends, but she really didn't want me to play this instrument. So when I later on joined the Zimbabwe College of Music, after my headmaster had encouraged me, I did my certificate in music, a national certificate in music. That was my first time to actually engage in several instruments. And I started playing guitar. I went on with the mbira, and I also played recorder, marimba, drums. And of course, we don't separate music from dance. So we also were taught to dance, to perform our traditional dances. Then later on, I went on for my first degree in ethnomusicology at the same place, Zimbabwe College of Music. And I got promoted to join the Ministry of Higher Education as a music lecturer in teachers' colleges. And from there onwards, I never looked back. Yeah.
And so you were a choral director. Is your voice in the tenor range or the baritone range?
The tenor.
Tenor. I can kind of hear a little tenor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Mary? While we are leveling the playing field, what's your musical background?
I was going to, my training was as a classical flutist, all the orchestral chamber music, solo repertoire, and I was a professional performer for about 20 years. And I was also teaching, as a musician, we have parallel lives, right? We have to put these lives together. So I was also teaching, I had a private studio, I was very fortunate as a child. I grew up in a rural state here in the States on a farm, a very rural environment. But there was a very, I would say, child-centered approach to what our children needed. And we had a absolutely phenomenal music education program. I was playing instruments when I was 10, and there were very sophisticated ensembles. And this was like, I always say this is in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, but the community believes so strongly, I think, in that education was so vital to the fiber of our community. And I always look back and I said that was a miracle, right? That I could have that experience. So then I went on to really become very interested in public affairs and government work and policy, and how policy leads to opportunity. And then, really now have the very great fortune of being pretty much a full-time advocate for music education. And I work for this wonderful organization called NAMM, the National Association for Music Merchants. We're 120 years old. So we've seen a lot of history in our association, and working and fighting and promoting music education has been the most consistent theme in our organization from its very beginning. So, I just feel very, very grateful. And now I too have turned to online music learning, because I play the guitar. As a music teacher, I've played everything, right? I play the piano and I sing very loudly when but now I'm spending quite a bit of time with the ukulele, just simply because it's easy to pick up, right? It's always kind of sitting around. The online apps are really cool. I'm going to have to try your app, Chris, and see how that works. So thank you for asking. So we are all in this together, right? This work. I want to be conscious of our time, but I also want to ask sitting where you are, and it's very interesting that you have very, very similar visions for music in the world, and you've got, remarkable experiences but the service, and we're Emmanuel, you are an esteemed academic in your community, a musical leader, organizing this academy locally. Chris, you've got this you're playing out there on the World Wide Web, right, with all sorts of tools to bring people together. So the question I have to both of you is, what happened for both of you within the last 3 months with the reality of a global pandemic that really changed everything for everyone? And I kind of like to know what happened to your environment, and what was your response to your service sector, to the people that you were serving? What did you do to keep people connected and engaged and supported? So Chris, I think that's a pretty dynamic answer you're going to give us, because it all turned to where you live, basically, right?
In what sense? To where we
Well,
live?
I mean, your services are online, right? Your services.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
So in other words, the entire emphasis turned to, where you were, your platform, essentially, right?
Yeah, there is. So at its core, Yousician is a self-learning tool, and most people obviously use it at home. I can interject. We have been working with teachers all along for many, many years. We have a lot of distinguished educators who use Yousician with their students. And then we have been running a pilot project in Finland to bring quality music education into every school, and just into the normal music classroom, where every kid actually gets the instrument and play together. And it has been extremely successful. We had a concept from a Canadian teacher who used it with his students, and he's teaching groups of 20 kids at the same time. And it's like an amazing music class. Like, he makes this gamified group lesson. They all play together, they all play along. He gets to actually be the teacher to help each kid individually while they all together play along. So he's been doing this for 6 years, and I met him in person, was blown away by the experience. The kids loved it. There was like this love of music in there. And I asked him, could he come to Finland and do it here in the English school in Helsinki, so that my teammates could go and watch it. And we found the English school in Helsinki. They went there. The teacher was really amazed, and she's like, I want to do that too. So she got the guitars, the instrument, she started doing it, told her friends. Before we knew it, we had 10 schools in Helsinki signed up for the program, and another 80 schools on the waiting list, all who wanted to run this gamified group lesson in class. And then, the social distancing happened, the schools closed, and that was quite a blow. I think for us now, for us, it meant 3 things, right? As a company, like, we are providing self-learning services. So actually we have seen the interest in our product increase quite a lot. We have seen old users who come back because now you have time. A lot of people who told themselves, and I think it was very beautiful to see this, who said, it's not ideal, but I want to come out of this crisis having done something positive in my life. And I think many people took it upon them to learn something meaningful, and many did music education. So we saw a lot of organic search. I mean, really a lot of people who downloaded, started using it. Then, just because the competition for other hobbies is now much lower, we also see a lot of the people engaging a lot right now. They play a lot, like it's a lot more than on a normal March or April. So, and that's actually really good news, because we all know when the first month you really invest, like, the chances that you will have a lifelong hobby of music are so much higher, because you kind of build a habit, you get into the flow, you realize you're learning, you make fast progress. So overall, from a perspective of self-learning music education, it has been pretty good. For us as a company, it has been somewhat tough, because we have quite a community at work. Like, we really, like, as I told you, we have instruments at work. People, half of the team is not from Finland. Many of them moved here to join our company to work with us, and now they are essentially, separated from their community, and they're alone at home. So that has been actually quite tough when you have a community built around, also through work. And then the last piece was, it was obviously disappointing now with the schools, because we were just kind of getting started. We were working with an organization in the US to help us bring it to underprivileged schools in the US as well. And so all the schools closed. And so what we did then with the resources that we had prepared for that part, we decided to create a concept called Yousician for Teachers. So there's a website, you can go to yousician.com/teachers. And so where we said, when music education in school has to stop, we do the best we can to help out. So at the moment, until the schools reopen, every teacher in any school across the world and their students, they can go and get access to free Yousician premium accounts for themselves and their students, so they can practice at home and play at home. Those who have an instrument, of course, can do instrument. Everyone else, at least there is using Yousician for voice, so you can learn to sing. And that has worked really, really well. So we have given away now over 100,000 subscriptions for students from all across the world to practice. And yeah, we have been essentially sharing the word. So that's maybe the part where we felt we can give back, because as a company, we believe music is very important and it shouldn't stop. I think times like these, music is incredibly important. So that's what we have done. But yeah, as a whole, for us, obviously has changed quite a lot. And I think what I really enjoyed also before from Emmanuel, I think the examples were so beautiful, that how music is one of those forces that brings people together. And that's not the one thing we can't do. So at least the music shouldn't stop. And hopefully when we can go out again and be together, maybe some of us have learned a bit more to actually then also play together. So that's maybe the part where we believe we can contribute the best.
You've said a couple of really important things that we're also finding is that people are, they are confined to home, but they have more time, right? And the uptake in actual music making has been, I think, tremendous. Some of the online tutor and tutorial services, music learning services, we in the States that I'm familiar with have had just phenomenal increases in their subscriptions. One of the guitar companies who has an online platform offered 3 months for free, right? Just a lot of outpouring of come and play, right? A lot of options.
Yeah. And I think I would go a step further. And I think for me, this is, I understand it's a crisis and there's all kinds of things going on in the world, but I also want to have a notion of optimism here, because we can see the statistics across the app stores. And yes, entertainment engagement numbers went up for Netflix and the kind, but also all the self-learning, self-improvement things went up. So it really gives you hope and promise, like that when people say like, well, right now I can't do whatever I do, so let me use this opportunity to learn a language, learn an instrument, read a book online, exercise at home. All those services that people use to somewhat improve something in their lives have gone up a lot, just what you now described. And I think that's actually quite a positive sign. And of course, including myself, and of course, hopefully we keep going with that even afterwards, so that we, we take the time to learn something, to improve something of ourselves. I think it's a very good investment.
Yeah, there's a bit of learning there for all of us, right? There's a little bit of a no, but I also really respect what you said about the creative culture of a company and people working together. I think that we say it in our company of 70 people, all that went to work at home, is that we've let the cat out of the bag, that productivity can really continue, that creativity can really continue in this format, but boy, we really miss each other. And we really miss the collaborative spontaneity of working together. So Emmanuel, what happened with your students as I'd love to hear more about the nuance of your country and your environment as you all were dealing with this, and how you stayed connected to your students, and how music was important to all of them as they moved through this time.
Right, I must say we weren't as lucky as Chris. Chris already had established something virtual, and which is working. I think I've done one or two lessons following Yousician. In our case, we were caught flat-footed. We were not sure how to proceed because of the high cost of data in Zimbabwe. Also, most of our students cannot afford computers. And so the closest we could get to was the mobile phone. So what we did to make sure that we continue with lessons was to adapt WhatsApp, WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. Yes, and so we've been carrying on with our lessons on WhatsApp platforms, which is very challenging because WhatsApp itself is not really suited for lessons. And apparently, the curriculum that we have created and we are following, of course, we created it with the help of the Global Music Academy from Germany. It is a hands-on kind of approach. It needs really the teacher to be there to assist, especially when you talk about body. There's what you call bodification, which teaches the students to embody rhythms before they apply them to music, to instruments. So yeah, we faced that challenge. Some of the students can't afford to keep up with the data bundle charges, hence they skip some classes, you know. But of course, there's a solution. We keep on encouraging them to connect online, get data and join later on if they miss a lesson, and try to catch up, because at least on WhatsApp, the messages stay there permanently. So the student can catch up later on, right? Some students fail to attend classes due to disturbances at home, because the home environment is now different from the environment they were used to, right? Especially girls have got a serious problem. They have to fetch water. And Zimbabwe is in some kind of a crisis also in terms of water. Getting potable water is very difficult in Zimbabwe. The situation is very difficult. And ladies, especially women and children, are the most affected because they have to run around to look for water, right? The WhatsApp platform itself is prone to distractions from chats and notifications from other friends. That's the other challenge. And the poor network connectivity. Connectivity is actually very, very challenging in Zimbabwe. Apart from it being expensive, it's not very reliable. It's not stable at all, right? For modules like keyboard harmony, we've got a module which is compulsory for all the students. Whether you're a guitarist or a marimba player, you have to go through keyboard harmony. So for these modules and main instrument, keyboard harmony and main instrument, a number of students could just not access the instruments. They can't access the keyboard. Most of them don't have the instruments. The school was providing them with these two instruments. So that's the other challenge. Of course, some of them have tried to acquire instruments in the process to solve this problem, but most of them are still struggling to get instruments, right? Some of the students find it hard to understand new topics on e-learning. They really want a teacher nearby. Right. So we try to slow down kind of on WhatsApp and use as many methods to explain, like voice messages and short video clips. And also the students have been affected psychologically, heavily affected. They really didn't expect this. Most musicians are just socially outgoing, and suddenly they are kind of compacted and they are confined, and it's very, very sad for them. It's very psychologically affecting, right? And lastly, of course, most of our students depended on performances, having these gigs. They would look after their extended families. In Africa, we live like in extended families, and you'd find that maybe a very big family of 15 or so is looked after by a student who is just going out to have some gigs and bring some money to feed the family. So there's been a heavy impact on our students and their families.
Emmanuel, you've explained things to us so with such an important voice about what's happening in your community. I must tell you that the webinars and conversations that we've had for music education in the US, we were all caught flat-footed. And the struggles are very, very similar. Now, we have a higher percentage of students that are economically secure. And they have data and they have access to devices. And they also have school districts that have dug into schools that have dug into reserves and redone their budgets and provided devices to students. But we too have students that can only learn on a parent's cell phone in our large urban areas, even in our rural areas. And what you've described on the social and emotional side, I think is universal for all of our children everywhere in our families. And we too have families, extended families that rely on just a few family members. You know, with our economy and our high unemployment, I mean, we're all pulling back to get back to a place where we can be whole again, right? But this is the kind of the next question I'd like to ask you as we prepare to return. You know, and I also heard in what you said, you didn't say it directly, but that everything that you were doing, yes, you were teaching music and harmony and the lessons, but it seemed to me that you were really responding to the condition of your students and the true psychological needs of, and just the contact was as important as the lessons. Would you say that was also part of your intention? Teaching music, yes, yes, yes. You know, we want them to learn a lot. But if they're not feeling safe or well or connected, that learning just slows down, if not stops. But the connection is so important, right?
Yes, true. This is very important. Actually, we also added a module for communication skills, which we realized is very important to keep people connected. Yes.
Right. And yeah, I don't think you can do that in too much. You know, I mean, if we talk to people around the world, and of course, Chris, your kind of platform, people they find each other, right? They play together. They tell us what happens when people on your platform, how they connect and they buddy up in all sorts of ways, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is a lot of wonderful stories. I think maybe one was, there was the family that they shared it on social media where they had the social distancing and specifically couldn't visit the grandparents. So they made this collage, and even the grandkids and the kids, they were all playing the same song, Jack Johnson Week Together. And it was actually very wonderful to see how they played together. And then one thing we have done now, as I told you, we have provided access to the Yousician platform for the teachers and their students at home. And so they did also these Zoom online classes. And we had Phil Collin, who is the guitarist of Def Leppard, kind of photobomb one of those. So he came in and said, hey kids, how's it going? And he was just there last week, and it was phenomenal. I mean, he's obviously an extraordinary musician, an extraordinary person. He was just like giving them advice, giving them tips, encouraging them. And then yesterday, something similar happened with Jason Mraz, who is like the Grammy Award winning. I mean, he's a mega star. And so he's bumping into this class of singing students and is sharing, like, as they are all kind of connecting online and like the power of music. And I think it was wonderful. I think these are some of the stories that bring people together. We do this as well as a team. Like on Fridays, we kind of have these Zoom calls. We talk to each other. We do funky things. I'll be very honest with you. I think for me, the real human experience cannot be replaced. I think this is great, but it's just not the same. So right. Personally, I do, at times it's nice to actually work from my own place. By and large, I do miss the community. I miss meeting people. I miss going for lunch. And obviously, I'm talking from a privileged position here that I can do my work as well from home almost. But I think, yeah, I wouldn't underestimate it. And in the tech community where I'm in, there is a lot of talk going on about, you know, should we be a fully distributed team? Do we ever have to go back to work? I think some companies say like, we'll be now a remote company for good. I have sympathy for the thoughts and the flexibility. I think human beings need each other. We are hardwired to connect. And as good as this is, it's not good enough. I just vividly picture Emmanuel and his friends like kind of coming together there. I don't know, it's just like making the music and just like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, a camera won't do the trick. A screen won't do the trick. So yeah, I obviously there is a lot of good reasons to want us to go back to where we were before. I think that's one more of them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And here you sit on the, right in the middle of the high tech wonderment of all of this, and you're yearning to go out to lunch. I think that's really great. So let's kind of turn the final curve here in our conversation. And what are you planning? What are you planning as slowly but surely people are coming back together? Emmanuel, what's happening in your situation? Is there plans for schools to resume with social distancing, and slowly but surely students will start returning and you can be together?
Yeah, basically, we are just taking the cue from the government, because as you know, Africa is kind of still trying to find out what's really happening. It might turn out to be the new epicenter, you never know, of this pandemic. So we are taking it very slowly and cautiously. Yes, there are plans to open schools now. And basically we're just following what the government says we should do. So yeah, of course, there's no more going back in terms of the virtual space. And it's time we start building resources, like in terms of our teaching materials should have a lot to do with videos that we can post online. And basically we are pushing for some platforms that we could get cheaply online. And we hope our governments will come in to support and help us get cheap data bundles. Yes.
So you're planning, as our school, our state, U.S. music programs are too. They're kind of doing 3 simultaneous plans, right? One is that they're going to be able to see students in some form, either with split days or split, they're coming every other day or 2 days of the week. The other time they're going to be online. They're going to be 100% online, or it'll end up being kind of a combination, right? But our music teachers now are really planning for 3 streams of instruction, right? And it's something that talk about flat-footed, right? I mean, it's like really an innovative time. And we can hear, we experience in the network here, phenomenal innovation. It's almost like it's been let loose, right?
True.
It's just been sort of like, because the goal of it all is to serve young people. Let's do whatever we have to make sure that they feel connected, they feel honored, they feel respected, they are supported, their needs as people, from food to shelter, are heard and understood. And then music is just integral to all of that. So our music teachers, the ones who are a little bit of afraid of that, they're not doing so well. But the ones that are jumping forward and taking part, and they're being let loose. And it's kind of exciting to see. How about you, Chris? In addition to all of your, your teacher outreach and your building of this classroom experience, what's next for you as you kind of, with the hopes that your team will come back together with maybe a reconfigured office and the instruments are pushed farther apart, or right? But
yeah.
that team will come back together again, right?
Yeah, I was going to go a step further. I mean, in the introduction, you said really nicely how NAMM is 118-year-old organization. And in those 118 years, a lot has happened to our civilization, ups and downs and all kinds of things. The music never stops. So I think that is really important. I think for us as a company, we will be fine. I think what is really interesting, and I like how you said it as well, we have seen an enormous interest from the educators and music educators in general. I think there is really a somewhat a tipping point, whether we go back or not, where everyone says, well, now we need to try out the digital solutions anyway. And what we have found is the teachers say like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. Like the kids practice at home with this thing. We can use it or use the means in some way. And I think sometimes a kind of constraint can also be a source of innovation. So I think, again, like everyone else probably on the planet, I hope things go well and we can get back to normal. I think from our end, I think that's all I can share here. I think obviously I meet my colleagues soon again, and the music can continue, hopefully groups as well.
I've been struggling for a term because I don't know if we're going to go back to normal. I think we're going to go forward to normal. And I think that our forward to normal includes a deepening of genuine concern for one another. And I still think that in a lot of places, we are still struggling with that in some ways. I choose to wear a mask when I leave my home because I have respect for my neighbors. And that's not because my governor is telling me I'm required to, but in my heart, I have respect for my neighbors. And I think that the forward normal, I'm not even calling it a new normal. I think it's a forward normal. And I think music has a lot to help us with as we go forward. So I'd like to ask each of you kind of for a final thought from your organization and what you're hopeful for, and what your a challenge you seek to overcome in the next several months. Chris, how about if we start with you?
Well, as a final thought, I'm an optimist, so let me talk about our company mission, because our company's mission is to make musicality as common as literacy. And so we believe back in the days, people thought like, of course, reading and writing is only for the privileged few, and the majority of people will never be able to read and write. And we all know today that, of course, it's possible. It's not only possible, it's important. The idea that you can share knowledge, learn from others across time, across generations, across space, like reading and writing is a core essence. And we believe musicality should be as common as literacy, because music is the language of the emotion that deeply connects with us, and it lets us express how we truly feel. I think something that sometimes in also a technological world gets probably undervalued, but then also I think going into a future of technology, and that's my bread and butter. I have a background in physics. Technology is going to come, and I think what is really important for human beings is to develop a sense of creativity that will allow us to face that future that none of us knows. Again, we all said we were completely turned upside down in a matter of days to the new realities. And I think the world is going to go through transitions. I think music is, the science is very clear on this. It's like the equivalent of a full body workout to your brain. It connects different parts of your brain, right? The logic, the analytical, the social, the physical, the mechanical, the audible, like all the parts in your brain essentially work together. And that's a very strong source of creativity, of new ideas, of new patterns, recognizing new things when different parts actually work together. I think the other one being actually working together with others. So you can have different minds or different parts of your own mind work together to come up with new ideas and find solutions to challenges that we don't even know exist. One of the other reasons why we feel music is so important, and I think it sounded crazy that everyone can read and write. I think when I say everyone is able to make music, it sounds a bit crazy today as well. I honestly, genuinely believe that the next generation, we will get to 99% of musicality rates also if we do our things well. And it's nice to see across the planet so many people with so much passion for music. So I think we have a lot going for us. Let's do it.
That's wonderful. And Chris, we'd love to have you at the NAMM show. And we can talk about that offline. Yeah. And you too, Emmanuel, we'd love to have you at the NAMM show. So what are your final thoughts, Emmanuel, as you move forward to be such a source of support and inspiration for your community? What are your final thoughts?
Yes, the basic or the most important resource is actually the human being himself. You know, as long as there are people around who want to learn music, and as long as they are committed, I remain optimistic that we are going forward. The most important thing we are looking for right now is to become self-sustainable as an academy. Since we started in 2013, I think we were actually getting there. Of course, the COVID came in, and it's just a disturbance, a temporary disturbance. And I think we can continue to move forward. We have the students who want to learn, and they're very creative. There's a lot of creativity now, as Chris has said. In fact, more creativity than I'd ever experienced in music. So the COVID thing is actually something that is a blessing in disguise, if you look at it from that point of view. So really, I would encourage our students to continue working. As they say, hush, music can. Music can. Yes, music can.
That's wonderful. I've been so grateful to spend this time with these two intelligent and sensitive and inspiring gentlemen. Thank you so much, Chris and Emmanuel.